And welcome back. How's everyone getting on?
We're awesome out here.
Great to hear.
Good. How you getting on, Dr. Dave? It's been a while.
It's been a while, and we're still closed here, and I understand you're closed there. So,
We've been at very little since we last talked. But sure, look, what can you do? How have you been coping at home? Like, because I suppose it's kind of worse over there because I know your cases are a bit higher.
I'm in the state of California here, and there's population's 40 million. 99. I was telling Thomas earlier, 99.97% of the state is closed. They've vaccinated less than 1% of the population so far, and they don't really have plans to do more than that, from what I can tell. They say they do, but that's the politicians. They're trying to recall the governor. They're pretty close to getting that completed. Probably have the signatures for the ballot request to be done by the end of March. I think what else I can tell you. There's, of course, there were no shows. There's no live events still. How bad it's gotten we have an American football team here, the San Francisco 49ers. The playoffs are going on now. They didn't make the playoffs, but they had to play their last 4 games in the state of Arizona because they weren't allowed to play at the stadium here.
Yeah.
Which is bizarre, right? So
It's a bit weird.
yeah, a bit odd. So, and there are no fans allowed, of course, at the games.
49ers that just had a bad season. We'll get them next year.
Yeah, man, no, that's rough. That is really, really rough. And like, well, at least like you're starting to vaccinate enough people. Like you're getting there. Over here, like we have like nurses and healthcare workers of all kinds. People working in old people homes. Blah blah blah. I don't know the right way to say that. It's just that's what they called it when we were in school. But yeah, it's
slow process.
Yeah, it's in process. But what do you think they're not going to do much more? Like you said, like the politicians are saying a lot, but not doing much.
No, they don't. They have to talk big to give people hope, but the problem is there's not a logistical distribution plan that there should be. Out here in the U.S., they split the states into the West and the East, and they gave 2 delivery services the charge of both. So United Parcel Service, UPS, they're in charge of the East Coast. You take the Mississippi River as the middle of the country, and then the West Coast is all FedEx. So those guys know what they're doing. The problem is we have right now in the state of Minnesota where there's like the landing place for the Pfizer vaccine, there's 12 million doses there, and they don't know what to do with them because they don't know where to send them, which seems to me mysterious.
And for something to seem weird to you, it must take a lot because you are a professional hypnotist. It's a very unique occupation. You got some great stories with that as well.
Well, we will tell more stories. We have plenty of stories we can tell. So that we can do to entertain everybody. So
absolutely. Do you got any on the spot?
Yeah, sure. So I had somebody actually ask me the other day if I could hypnotize them over the phone.
Okay.
Thomas is nervous, so the more I talk Thomas, the more relaxed you become. I'm just teasing him. So, of course, I explained to him I couldn't formally hypnotize them the way they think, but you can use persuasion patterns to hypnotize somebody. So, and that then led to the story of, have you ever hypnotized an animal? I don't think I told you the story of me hypnotizing a dog last time.
No, you did not.
No, you don't. So
start fucking talking. Like, go on.
So long ago, this had to be 20 years ago. I was with a good friend of mine. His name's Lee Zobel. He's since passed away. He was a sales trainer. So he would set up sales trainings for companies all around the country. And then I used to do shows for him at the end of the seminar. He would do selling events at. So we would hypnotize the company and have a great time to close out the event. I had met him in Phoenix because we were going to go talk to a couple of companies to sell the whole program we had. And we stopped in to see a friend of his who ran an auto detailing place. Now, Lee, you have to know, was 20 years older than me at the time. And he's an ex-Marine. So we're going to see a friend of his who was an ex-Marine. Tough guy. We went in to see, running this auto detail shop. And apparently he had 5 of them in the greater Phoenix, Arizona area. And him and Lee were catching up. And then he says, Lee, who's this with you? He says, oh, this is my friend, Dr. Dave. He's the world's greatest hypnotist. And so Lee says, hand him your card. So I hand him my card. And he looks at my card. He goes, bullshit. You're not the world's greatest hypnotist. If you're so great, hypnotize my dog. And he has a Labrador Retriever standing up. And Lee's now embarrassed because, you know, he's pretty sure I can't hypnotize the dog. And he knows what his friend's like. And Lee says, we probably should be going. I said, no, wait a second, Lee. Let me see what I can do. So I move around to the Lee.
That is so brave of you.
Got nothing to lose, right? I'll never see the guy again. Is the way I look at it.
Yeah.
So I walk around to the left of Lee because that's where the dog is. And I look at the dog. I raise my hand up, point my finger. So I have the dog's attention. I don't know the dog's name, but the dog's looking at my finger. And I just say as loud as I can, sleep. And as I do that, I bring my hand down like this. And the dog just lays right down on the ground and sleeps. And then the guy we were meeting with, God bless him, I can't remember his first name. He goes, well, God damn it, you are the world's greatest hypnotist. Lee, how come you haven't brought him by before? And Lee says, we got to go. So out we go. Now it's in the summertime in Arizona, August. The heat out there is at least 120 degrees. So we get in the rental car Lee's got, and he will not start the car. And it's hot as hell. And I said, Lee, turn the car on. He goes, I'm not turning the car on until you tell me how you did that. And I said, Lee, sometimes you just get lucky. And that's a true story. And then he turned the car on. So he says, you didn't. I said, I have no idea how I did that. We did.
I respect that you admit it.
Yes. Yes.
So,
But then everywhere we went, and he introduced me before a show, he would talk about me hypnotizing the dog. And the story from him got better and better and better every time because he just made it bigger and bigger and bigger than it ever was.
Yeah. So it kind of hyped you up in a way. I like that.
Yeah, it was fun.
It reminds me of that. I don't know if you've ever seen that Britain's Got Talent act where they got the dog to hypnotize people.
Yes.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
I mean, you're a professional in your work. Do you have any idea how that was done at all, or
no idea? So I wouldn't even imagine a way to guess. So.
Wow, that was.
But I watched it too, so I have no idea.
And do you do that when you watch other like hypnotists working? Do you kind of like, can you tell how they do it? Like,
most of them I can. But there's sometimes there are things they're doing where you wonder if it's an illusion, like a magic trick, or perhaps the people are in on it. That I don't know. And if they are, I don't want to spoil somebody's entertainment value. So
I already think it's fair if that is the case.
Yeah.
Because I know, like, it's such a weird thing. Like, even when you're growing up, seeing a fake magician, you know, just kind of ruined it for you. And
He ruins the fun.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I don't, you know, if I know how, I know a little bit about magic, but not a lot. But if I know how something's done, I enjoy if somebody can present it well, because it still can fool you if you're not paying attention. So.
Yeah. Well, it's cool, and like, it's not exactly magic. It's what you do, but like, it is magical to some people. You know, it's
Absolutely
a bit of fun. I've never been to a hypnotist show. I didn't even know they were a thing till I met you. But I've started to see, you know, some online, or I went back and I watched yours before we talked the first time. You know, it's pretty cool. And
one day, hopefully we'll come out there and we'll be able to do something.
Oh,
so,
you're hoping.
You got to hypnotize us. Have you ever been hypnotized?
Of course. That's one of the ways you learn.
What's it like?
What's it like? So you feel very much like you're daydreaming. You're aware of all the sounds around you. you're aware of where you're sitting, or if you're laying down, you're aware of that is. But you're just not really concerned about anything because you're very relaxed. And you're kind of like moving in and out of consciousness would be the way to think of it.
Okay.
Yeah. The other way you know you've been hypnotized, I think we talked about being in a movie. If you've gone to a movie, you get caught up in the action, you think it's real, you laugh with the movie, you cry with the movie, you get scared at the movie, you're hypnotized, you're in trance because you're watching something that is not real. And in your imagination, it's become real. And that's hypnosis. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And the movie theater setup puts you into trance. I don't know if I went through this last time, so I could walk you through. They've set it up in a theater, so you'll go into trance. So, because one of the ways to go into trance is through ritual. And to go to a theater to watch a movie, there's a ritual. The first ritual is you have to have a ticket to get in. So today you can buy it so it's on your phone. You can buy it online, print it out. You can also get an original ticket when you go into the theater. But you need a ticket to get in. Now, once you have the ticket, you then have to go stand in line to go into the theater. Usher has to look at the ticket and then tell you which theater you're going to. But on the way to that spot, what is there? There's food. And there's food there for two reasons. One, of course, is profit for the theater, the owner of the theater. But the second is it's part of the hypnotic process. It does a couple of things. One is they sell a lot of popcorn. And the way they sell the popcorn is by the smell. And as you grow up as a kid, it becomes ritual. You need to eat something when you go to a movie. Everyone has their thing they have. Some is popcorn, some is candy, some have lattes now, some have pizzas, whatever it is. But that stimulates your smell. And so you've been to movies that you've watched where you've actually smelled things that took place on the screen. There are scenes that take place where you go, oh, that has to smell gross, and you can actually smell it. But there's no smell in the theater. It's in your mind.
Yeah.
So that's activated your sense of olfactory before you even got into the theater. Then the other reason food's important is when you get into the theater itself, it's a small confined place, and your body is telling you through your limbic system in the back of your brain that you need to eat something, because if you don't eat something, you might starve to death because you're trapped in this small space. That's your caveman brain talking. So just by putting some food in your mouth, it calms that process down. So it says, I'll be all right. I have some food in me. I'll survive. Complete setup. Then what happens is you can only look straight forward to see the movie. You can't look off to your left. You can't look off to your right. You can't turn around to watch it. You have to look forward. So that's a fixed point of attention. So when a hypnotist is operating, they want you to look at a certain place as a point of fixation to get your attention. Well, the theater's done that right away. Giant screen. Got to look forward. Then what they have is the lights are dim. Chairs are comfortable. And as the lights are dim just a little bit, they begin to play previews of coming movies. And that's to stimulate excitement. So you watch the previews. Some of them you'll say, well, that's Netflix. That'll be streaming. In the old days when there was Blockbuster Video, it'd be a rental, right? You might want to buy the video, or more importantly, if something comes out, oh, I need to see this with my buddy because it's better at the movie theater. So it stimulates excitement. Then what they do is they dim all the lights down. And almost all the time you think you can hear people doing shh, but nobody is. But that's what they're doing in your subconscious mind. And that's the point where we say your critical factor that blocks the imagination in your subconscious, it's relaxed because it's now time for you to be entertained. So if the movie is really, really good, you're in trance, hypnosis, for the next 2 hours or so. If the movie sucks, according to you, you'll wake up from that and you'll be, hey, Thomas, can I go get you some food? I'm going to go get some food. Got to use the restroom. Really, you want to go look at your phone. You'd rather go on the internet than be watching this movie, but you might be on a date, so you're stuck, right? So that's what happens. And so when the movie ends, you'll notice that an exciting movie, the time has gone by like that. especially if you've gone in mid-afternoon and you come out and it's dark, right? You think you've been there forever, but you've only been there 2 hours. So that's how they hypnotize you at the movie theater.
Yeah.
And that concept of the theater was designed by a hypnotist by the name of Harry Aarons way back in the early 1900s.
Well, I'm definitely a fan of his then.
Yeah.
Thomas, myself and Thomas, we study marketing.
Yeah, I was thinking about that as well.
You were thinking of atmospherics as well, weren't you?
I was thinking of
it's such a big part in. It's just kind of like, I don't know how to explain it. Subconscious effects that the store puts on you. You know, like the bread being beside when you walk in, so you start to get hungry or whatever.
Exactly.
Or the line having like chocolate bars or whatever nearby. You know, it's kind of cool the way they set that up. It's kind of cheeky. Well, I like it. I like it.
And they do it Disneyland and in Disney World in Florida, in California, Florida. They have a couple ways they do that to you as well. So at the original Disneyland, when you walk in, Walt Disney, very brilliant hypnotist, he has a little gateway you have to walk under before you go into Main Street. And so you'll notice there, before you're going in, there'll be families there, and sometimes they're arguing. It's what happens when they get big groups of people together. But there's a little archway, and at the top of the archway, it says, the happiest place in the world. And if you stand there, and then you watch when they go through the other side, all of a sudden, they see that subconsciously when they go through there, and all of a sudden, they're transformed when they enter the Main Street area. They're no longer arguing, because Walt said, you got to be happy. Then he really knocks you out, because along Main Street, and it's at both parks, and it probably is in Europe as well. I haven't been to those, but on Main Street, there are all sorts of food places. Sell cookies, ice cream, and all sorts of food. They pump out the smells from the kitchen onto Main Street. So you may have just eaten lunch before you got there, or breakfast. And as you walk down Main Street, you are now hungry because you're smelling food.
Yeah.
And
it works.
It's brilliant.
I remember whenever I went to Disney, you know, you straight away for some reason, no matter how expensive the food was, and it was expensive, you'd go get some. You know, you might even be that hungry, but
right.
The smell gets to you.
Mm.
Like my dad used to go ham on the old turkey legs they sell there. that was pretty cool. I was only a wee lad at the time, but you know, fun times. It's such a magical place in the first place.
Same thing, because you're in a park, you're now trapped because whoever you're with doesn't want to leave early. There's someone who wants to see everything in the park. So back of your brain is saying, I got to eat so I don't get stuck here and can't eat. So you're going to eat some food.
Yeah, it's so smart. Like it's those little tricks that get you, that use your subconscious against you, kind of, isn't it? Like it's mad.
But you'll see it in all sorts of places you go, venues that you go to, you attend to. And what they're using, there's a thing I personally call it's the Hypnotic Formula. And it's made up of 4 parts. So this would be good, especially if you're going to write an essay, maybe, and you can steal my material to help you. So
you're a great help.
Be welcome to. So the first thing is imagination. So you have to excite the imagination. That's step 1. Step 2, the person who's being hypnotized needs to believe whatever's going to happen is going to happen. So if it's a concert you're going to, you're excited in your imagination to be there because you're about to see your favorite band perform. Your belief is they're going to be really, really good. And then you have to have conviction that they're good. The way that your conviction is there is you've heard their music for a long, long time. So you know they're good. And then there's an expectation of that to happen. So with those 4 pieces, you have hypnosis. If any one of them's missing, there isn't trance. There's a problem. So those 4 pieces have to be there. And the same has to be true on the behalf of the person who's doing the hypnosis. So if it's a hypnotist doing it, I've got to, in my imagination, imagine that I'm going to hypnotize that person to stop smoking, or they'll have fun on the stage. I have to have the belief that I can hypnotize them. I have to be absolutely convinced with conviction that I can hypnotize somebody, and I have to expect they'll do what I tell them to do.
Mm.
And that's the same thing the performer does at a band. The band may not know they're doing this. It's intuitive. Same thing with pro sports. The great soccer player that you go watch. You watch them because they're fantastic and you expect certain things to happen. He may not know he's doing all this, but him, by just coming out onto the field, he's done all that, right? And if he plays halfway decent, he's more than done it.
Mm. Yeah, I suppose you're right with expectation. Hopefully people don't have too high expectations on us. But,
Jesus.
no, I'm just kidding. But
Hey, life's a marathon. Remember, it's not where you start.
There you go.
Remember Frank Sinatra? He used to sing where?
He used to what?
Frank Sinatra used to sing in little bars.
Yeah.
In front of 20 people.
He was a legend. He was an absolute legend of a guy.
So he will always refer to himself as a saloon singer, even if he's in front of 19,000 people at Madison Square Garden.
Just a big saloon.
He's singing just to a few people.
Mm.
It's not where you start.
Absolutely. Yeah, you were saying there, like, you hypnotize people to stop smoking. Like, after our first conversation, I taught more on that. I was like, that's a really cool idea. But I'd like to hear some of the practicalities of that, like how you do it, because, you know, stopping smoking is a hard thing for a lot of people.
Of course.
You know, we've had Dr. Rob Kelly on. He's a addiction analyst. And you know, we talked about, you know, fighting your addictions with him a bit. But you know, you're out there helping as well. What's it like?
Sure. So
how desperate are people to stop smoking?
Yeah. So the first premise happens is they're going to want to make an appointment. So in today's world, they can make an appointment by going online, and they can make an appointment by calling on the phone. So for me, the first thing you do is you have to screen that phone call and the online visit. So if they're calling online, I want to actually talk to them on the phone. So here's who you can't hypnotize at the beginning. So let's say the wife is calling for the husband. So the wife calls, I want you to hypnotize my husband so he'll stop smoking, and I'm going to pay for it. I said, that's great, but I need your husband to call me. Well, why? Because I need to talk to him, because he may not want to stop smoking. So she could pay for the visits, but if he shows up and I ask, why are you here? Well, I'm here because my wife wants me to stop. And I'll say, that's fine. Do you want to stop? Nope.
So
doesn't matter what I do.
They don't want to help themselves. How can you?
Yeah. So the model is, as a therapist, forget being a hypnotist, my job as a therapist is to help someone get ready for change. So if that person's not ready for change, no matter what I do, nothing will happen. Because they're actually going to be doing all the work in their mind. They just don't realize it. I'm going to guide them through a process to help them stop. But if they're ready to change, then I can help them. Now, they can be resisting at the beginning, and that's fine, because I can use that resistance to get them ready to change, because I can play with that. But if they're rigid, it's not going to happen. So we got to screen them over the phone in person before we bring them into the office. That's number one. So they have to say, yeah, I want to stop. So the game there is to say, if I want to help you stop smoking, you've got to tell me you want to stop smoking for you. So is that true? And if they will admit that, then they'll come in. Now, there could be some resistance in their voice. That's fine. Because when they come in, I can work with that. Then what I do is I then talk to them just for about 5 or 10 minutes to get them in a different state than when they came in. So they may have just come from work. Could have been a bad day at work. It could be a bad situation at home. Terrible traffic to get there. You don't know any of that. You got to get that debriefing gone. So now they're in your office for the reason they're there, rather than all these other things running through their mind, right? Or I can't pay my bills on Friday, whatever it is, you got to get that removed. Then you can discuss the smoking. So the first thing is, I'll ask, what's the reason you're here? Well, and again, if he comes back to, my wife sent me here to stop smoking. I said, well, that's fine. But we talked on the phone, you know, the only way for you to stop is because you want to stop. So tell me about that.
Just
Then we're going to have a conversation. And my job is to get them to the point where they're going to say, I do want to stop smoking for me. I want to stop smoking because I want to see my kids grow up. I want to see my grandkids grow up. Whatever the reasons are personal to them, you got to get that out. Then what we do next is, go ahead.
Sorry. I'm really intrigued. I just got so many questions for you.
Yeah.
Do you ever
So
get a bit of a shock when you tell someone like you can't work with them?
Yeah. So that'll happen. That's the next stage. So someone will say, look, I just want you to hypnotize like you did Bob. And he just stopped and told me he came in, you hypnotized him, he doesn't smoke anymore. I said, well, Bob wanted to stop. You're not Bob. So because you don't want to stop, I can't help you. So now the guy gets upset because he's going to say, wait, what are you talking about? I'm better than Bob. And that's where I want him to be, because if he's going to fight me on that, I can use his fight to get him to realize, if you're better than Bob, then just stop smoking now. And when he says, yeah, I could do that. I could do it faster than Bob. Well, it took me an hour and a half with Bob. I could do it right now in 15 minutes with you. When that challenge is laid down by the guy who said he didn't want to stop, we're good to go. You with me? And the reason that works is because people don't like to be told what to do.
Yeah.
It goes back to when you're a little kid. Mom says, don't touch the stove. And you're like, why? Because it's hot, you'll burn yourself. Well, a kid doesn't know. Let me touch the stove 500-600 times and burn my finger. So you don't know. Yeah, so remember that. So you can use that game, they don't like to be told no, to get them to change. Look, sleight of hand, right? Magic trick. Now what happens is, now they say, I'm ready to stop. Great. I need your cigarettes. This is where they have to give them up. And they go, what do you mean you need my cigarettes? Well, you won't need them anymore. So put them over on that table. And I'll unpack them and I'll say, is that all you have on you?
You were a smoker.
And then maybe they have a few more odd cigarettes in their pockets. They can, okay, I need your lighter. They might have a real nice lighter too. And, well, this is a real nice lighter. You're not going to need it anymore. I'll keep it. It's how I get paid. I resell these. So lay them out there. Then the guy I know who's really not all in yet, I'll say, come on, what do you have in your car? They go, what do you mean? You've got cigarettes in your car. I know you do. So go get them. And then sometimes we both get up and go into the car and we get them out. You might have a carton of cigarettes. You know, go, this is worth so much money. I said, not anymore. You don't need it. Sit it right there. He says, what is it all this for? I said, well, while you're hypnotized, I'm going to smoke. Because I smoke.
Do you smoke?
No.
No. I was saying that, like, it would be so hilarious if you were actually a smoker. You know,
there is a story about a hypnotist who smoked. So, just remind me to tell you that when we get done with this. And it's a true story. So, not him. So, we get all the cigarettes there. And so the next thing we do is I'll point to all of them. Say the way you're going to know at the end of today's session that you stopped is I'm going to offer you a cigarette. They're all right there. If you want to smoke, you'll just go pick one up and smoke. But at the end today, because you want to be a non-smoker now, you want to be a non-smoker for the rest of your life. Isn't that true? And they nod their head. When I offer you a cigarette, you're going to say, no, thank you. I'm a non-smoker. Because right now you're a non-smoker. And if you understand, nod your head for me. When they nod their head like this, right then and there, they don't understand. They've just stopped smoking. Right there. Now, I generally would see people for 3 sessions. That's what I would like to see them for, to help them. But normally, I'm going to say success rate, 60 to 70% of the people I would see for 1 session never smoked again.
I believe you, 100%.
Yeah.
Now, and I will tell them, this is all framed before we get to the cigarette part in the pre-talk up front. And I want to see you at least 3 times, because you may leave here and you may want to have a cigarette. That's normal to think about. In fact, you might have just 1 or 2 cigarettes instead of a whole pack. That's fine, because you're progressing to where you want to be. But I need you to come in a week and then tell me how you feel. And then that session is based upon how they feel. They may come and say, I've never smoked again. Or they may call me and cancel the appointment. And I'll say, well, remember, I don't want you to smoke again. This isn't about me making money, so you stop smoking. It'd be nice for you to come in for the other 2 sessions to reinforce it. Well, I'm not going to smoke anymore. Some of those people I never see again because I don't force them. I don't sell a package of sessions. They just come in. So with the ones that will come in for the 3, I can document, I've had over 3,000 of them. None of those people to this day have ever smoked again. But remember, I didn't take everybody because I didn't take them because we screened them over the phone, didn't make the appointment. They came in for 10, 15, 20 minutes and they didn't really want to stop smoking. So I didn't take any money. My time was free and we let them go because we're not going to take somebody we can't help.
Yeah.
You said
saying no to people.
when you offer, do people take a cigarette? You said you offer them a cigarette at the end of the session.
Yeah, I point right to it.
Do people take them? Like,
No, not if the game is on. If they put the cigarettes there, it's never happened where someone picked up a cigarette at the end. Where it's happened is they've unloaded it and say, you're now ready to get hypnotized. So that you become a non-smoker and they'll go, nope, I don't want to stop. Great, take your cigarettes and you can leave now. And you don't owe me anything.
fair enough. Yeah.
But if the game is on, the game's on. They're not going to pick them up.
Yeah.
Because I'm going to do everything in my power once they're in trance to bombard them with suggestions to help them change.
Yeah. Well, I guess then there's the funny story of the hypnotist who's a smoker.
Yes. So this is a true story, but I'll leave him unnamed. So he's passed away. I could name him, but I don't want to. He wouldn't mind me sharing the story because he used to tell the story all the time. So he hypnotized somebody to stop smoking. And in the middle of the session, because he had to say the same thing over and over again, he had an audio tape. So you can tell he's an older guy. He would put on a cassette tape of the patter, which is the suggestions to stop smoking, so he could take a break. And the reason he would take a break is he would go outside and have a cigarette while the guy's listening to the patter of him talking. So he would say, in a moment, you're going to hear a recording of my voice. And as you hear that recording of my voice, it's going to be more and more suggestions. So you now become a non-smoker. You might hear my door open or close because I have to attend to a small piece of business. But my voice is here with you at all times. If you understand, nod your head for me. Great. Continue while you listen to the sound of my voice, become a non-smoker. Well, then he would go out the door. Oftentimes he would take the cigarettes he just got to smoke because that's how he got his cigarettes. And while he was standing outside one time, having a puff on a cigarette, he had a heart attack. Absolutely true. There was another appointment coming. Otherwise, he'd be dead before he passed away 20 years later. There was another appointment coming, and the lady was a nurse. And she saw him outside smoking. Now, and she didn't think he smoked either because he had stopped smoking, but she was coming to him for a phobia, so a totally different issue. But she saw him go down. And she saved his life because she was able to call for help and do CPR. And he then went to the hospital, and the poor guy's still in there, right? So the nurse had to go in. His wife didn't even know. His wife was his receptionist. His wife just knew he hadn't come back in at the normal time. So she knew the tape was going to end at some time, right? So she walked outside, and then there's an ambulance. There's a big commotion going on, and it was him. So she then said, oh my God, I got to go wake the guy up. Now, his wife's not a hypnotist, but she went in there and just said 1, 2, 3, wide awake. And the guy goes, I don't smoke anymore. And he got up and left. She didn't even take any money from him. And the guy didn't even know that the poor guy had collapsed. He didn't even know because he went out a different door, left. The hypnotist went into the hospital. Turned out he very clogged arteries. He had to have bypass surgery. And so he had bypass.
Yeah.
And the next time he saw that individual who he helped stop, he had to tell him the whole story because he was busted. The guy came in to thank him and said, I stopped smoking. I never paid you. He says, well, let me tell you why you didn't pay me. And he showed him the whole setup. He said, you see the thing here? I would play this cassette tape. You probably didn't know I put it on. and I picked up your cigarettes and I would go outside and smoke because I was a smoker at the time.
Mm.
He says, really? Yeah, I smoked. And then I out there, I was having a cigarette. I had a heart attack. Just about died.
Jesus.
And then he opened his shirt, unbuttoned it, and he says, you can see my scar from the bypass surgery. Now, he said, it's interesting, the hypnotist said something very interesting, because when you're in surgery and you're in a state with anesthesia, you're in a trance state. And so you can hear subconsciously all the things they're talking about that's going on. And he's a firm believer that the doctors hypnotized him to stop smoking, because when they opened him up, they were talking about all the damages to his lungs and his heart and the fact that he was overweight, that all of this was contributing to his bad health. And what is fascinating is when he got done with the surgery and recovered, he never wanted another cigarette. And he lost 20 pounds.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So he's convinced they used it on him by the power of their positive suggestions when he was being operated on, giving him suggestions that he needed to lose weight, change his diet, stop smoking. And that's what he came away with. Now, he either went in with that expectation, remember the formula, imagination, belief, conviction, expectation. That's what he had. So he never confirmed it with the surgeons or the anesthesiologist, but it's very interesting. And it's 100% true story.
Oh, I believe you. I
100%,
believe
yeah.
you 100%.
Yeah. Yeah. It's wild, isn't it?
Oh, yeah. Crazy.
You think? Yeah, it's a bit wild. Yeah, I don't know what you do there.
So when I heard the story from him, the first time he told me, he says, what are you going to do? I said, I'm using that from now on. He goes, what do you mean? When I get somebody there, I'm going to put on a recording of patter so I don't have to work so hard. And he looked at me, what do you mean? I said, then I'm going to start smoking because I don't smoke. I need to know what it's like. And he says, he looked at me and said, you're a son of a bitch. He meant it in a friendly way.
Yeah. Man, that's rough. That's rough.
Yeah.
Yeah,
But-
well, at least.
And he was a great hypnotist, and he trained lots of people. He really gave back. So
Well, again, power to him. Yeah, look, trying to stop smoking is a rough one for some people, and I'm sure a lot of people have parents out there who went through it or they themselves went through it. Fair play, fair feckin' play, and yeah, power to anyone doing that at the moment. But Dave, have you been able to take that side of your business and do it online, like through Zoom or something like this?
unfortunately not, because I'm an old school hypnotist, meaning I prefer to do all these things in person. Because online, there's a couple of things I don't have control over. One is I don't have control over the room or the environment the person is I'm working with. So I don't know what they're doing. I mean, they could have all sorts of distractions going on while I'm working with them. So they're not fully engaged with me. Second, for when I hypnotize somebody, there's a lot of physical touch involved, because I'm to make sure they're actually in trance. A lot of times I'll pick up one of their hands or arms and drop it because I want to see what state they're in. Because if I pick up their arm and when I drop it, it doesn't move. It just stays up in the air. They're not in trance yet. So they're not in a state where we can bombard them with suggestions to change or tell them a hypnotic story to help them change. We got to make sure they're really in trance. So there are hypnotists who will do it online by Zoom. They'll do it over the phone. I'm just not a believer in that. I'm not saying it can't be done. I just won't do it. So
That's fair.
Yeah, no, fair enough.
yeah, that's me. More power to the guys who can. I don't have the ability to do it.
Yeah,
So,
those guys are making a business for themselves now, especially during COVID. I mean,
yeah,
it's not bad.
now I could teach self-hypnosis through a Zoom meeting. That's a different thing, but it's still not as great a teaching skill and then a teaching experience for the student as in person, because you just can't see the entire body. So that's part of the problem. So
Do you self-hypnotize yourself a lot, would you say?
Yeah. So
That sounds
we all
so-
do.
so
We all do.
cool.
We all talk to ourselves. So You know, people, here's how people do it every week. It's Monday morning. They get up and they go, God, it's Monday morning. I got to go to work. So right away, it's negative. They get up, they stub their toe in the bedroom, getting up out of bed. So now they're injured, right? And then they get up, they make coffee, they pour coffee on their shirt, right? And they say it's going to be a bad day. Well, the mind moves in the dominant direction of your thoughts. So right there, you've told it to go into that direction. So if you're going to be a master of your mind, you're going to stop and say, wait a second, I'm aware of what I'm saying. Just because that happened doesn't mean it's going to be a bad day. I can change it right now. So stop that. It's only your perception. We call it, it's your framing a view. I'll hold up a piece of paper here. So if I'm holding this up, if you want to reframe the piece of paper, you could look at it this way or this way or this way. You just look at something in a different manner. That's reframing your experience.
You always say that a lot, Thomas.
Yeah,
James.
we all do it, right? Especially if you have a friend who's having a bad time, right? If you explain something in a different manner to your friend, all of a sudden what happens? There's a shift that takes place. And all of a sudden, that person changes. Now, they'll thank the friend for doing it. All the friend did was make you aware. The change happened by you.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
Yeah. You know, there's a lot to be said about self-help, and you know, I suppose that does help. Or not suppose, it just does. Obviously, you've made a career out of it.
Yeah. So, and we'll get through this mess we're in. We'll get, in spite of the inefficiency of our leaders and the ineffectiveness of some of our leaders, and the fact that maybe some of us in some countries have a crazy person running the show. So it's just to be funny, depending on what you think of our man. So we'll get by. We'll get by it all because we'll survive. So we have to be patient, and we have to use the time we have been allotted every day to do something productive. So something you can't see because of the camera, I have on my wall in front of me in my office here, I have a sign that says the following. And I've had this up since, I say, 1987. So it's whenever you get stuck in your work environment or your daily routine, I have these things up here. It says, what is powerful, productive, and profitable at this moment? Question to ask yourself. And then underneath is a little command. It's a hypnotic command because it's embedded. And I'll explain that in a moment. And the words are there, do it now. And the word now is an embedded command. So when you say do something now, that means right now. So that's something to ask yourself, you know, what can I do right now that's powerful, productive, and if you need to make money, profitable for yourself? So one of those three items or all three, because if you're just moping around because we're in COVID and there's nothing to do, it's just not true. Go back to 100 years before. They didn't have Google. We couldn't do this, right?
Yeah. No.
Some people didn't have lights, they had candles, but they would read, they would write. Some of the greatest writings were written 100 years ago. So lots of things took place. So we need to be productive in what we have. So
Quarantining would have been, you know, very different 100 years ago.
very different, very different. They wouldn't have known what's going on.
No, exactly.
This would have just been a bad case of some disease. They'd have no idea why.
Yeah.
And that would be it.
It sucks though.
Stuck in a lockdown now till God knows when. Hopefully not October.
Yeah.
So I've read lots and lots of books, more books than I have in a long time. So sometimes a book a day. And then what I do out of my library when that book is done, I give the book away. So there are friends I know, so I'll email them. I just read this great book. Here's what it's about. If you're interested in the book, just send me a note back and I'll mail it to you. Because they're all around. So I can't deliver it to them, right? And don't worry, I didn't sneeze in it, so there's no COVID.
Good on you. You know, you're saving lives.
Yeah.
One book at a time.
But you know, you got to send it to somebody who's going to read the book, because you could send You could send the book to somebody, and if they don't do anything with it, it didn't do it. All I did was make money for the post office. So yeah, we want to make sure they're going to read it. So my thing with them is when you're done reading it, or if you're not going to read it because your life gets interrupted, give it to somebody else.
Yeah. Yeah.
There was one guy I sent a lot of books to, 50. This is true. I don't want to bust him, because he'll probably watch this when it's replayed. He'll know it's him. I sent him about 50 books. He sold them all.
Wow. That's rough. That's pretty rough. Whoever you are, that was bad form.
Shame. For shame.
Sir, lady.
Yeah, he sold them all. He didn't read a single one of them, but he sold them all.
That's rough.
You know, it's a bit like it's like people buying the PS5 and selling them for triple the price. That was right before Christmas as well. So they buy a PS5 online and they were selling them for like $1.5 grand.
Yeah, new PlayStation.
He got caught because it was a group email chain, and he got caught by someone in the group says it's interesting. I won't even say his first name. We'll just call him Joe because that's not his real name. Joe, in the email, Joe, how come every one of Dr. Dave's books is for sale on your Amazon site? Your Amazon.
Oh, that's so bad.
That's rough. That's rough.
Yeah, and they're all in excellent condition because they've only been read one time. He didn't mark them up at all.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, that's pretty rough, man. That's pretty rough. Yeah. But look, like Thomas was saying, when the new PlayStation came out this year, people were buying loads and then selling them on for like way more of what they actually cost, just so you were guaranteed to get one. Because when they launched, people weren't able to get them. Dr. Dave, I don't suppose you're a big PlayStation player.
I've never been on. Now, the last video game I ever played, are you ready?
I'm ready.
So date me, was Pong. You remember Pong?
No.
Probably have no idea what I'm talking about.
Let me look it up here. Go on.
So yeah, Pong. That's the only video game I've ever played. So I'll wait till you guys see it. See how.
I know what Pong is. Yeah.
You know what Pong is, right?
Yeah, Pong.
Oh man, the one with the two lines that are going. Like,
That's it, man.
God.
That's it. So,
Whoa.
Oh wow, that is
and I learned to play Pong at a pizza restaurant in Chicago. It's a famous restaurant. It's still there. I don't think the Pong is there anymore. But you would order Chicago deep dish pizza from Gino's East. You would, while you're waiting for the pizza, you'd be in your little room, and in the room you were with your friends, there was a Pong video game machine that you would rent by the hour, and then there was air hockey.
Yes.
So those were our entertainments when I was your age, just so you have an idea. And that is the only video game I've ever played. I know it sounds terrible. And there was a pinball machine. So
that's pretty cool.
That's good. It's so amazing to see how far we've come.
Isn't that interesting?
Yeah. It's like you have one of those things called the suit steer. You like to talk about them like getting shot.
Oh yeah. So I
haptic feedback.
VR that's headset on the way, So virtual reality, I just go into it and play games inside of it,
Right.
Like I'm actually there, blah blah blah. There's like really advanced ones of those. Then there's also these things called haptic suits. So you'll feel if you get shot. You're not gonna die. You're just gonna feel like a tap or probably change the settings to make it a harder taps, whatever. There's haptic gloves. So if I went to touch my mug in game, okay, there's a virtual mug in there. I go to grab it. My hands will only be allowed to grab it like that. So it'll stop your fingers going too far or whatever.
Okay.
If you touch a wall, your hand will flatten out. Blah blah blah. It's full body tracking, so little laser shoot out whatever, and they track your whole body. Video games are pretty advanced right now. It's terrifyingly advanced. Fair play to people who make it. There's not a lot of profit in virtual reality. We had a voice actor on Bruce Thomas, and we were telling him all about this. And I think the last game, I don't think he ever played video games.
Is that right?
What was he, 52 or 49? And he'd never played a video game ever. And he voice acted in so many. Yeah.
That's amazing. That's amazing.
Yeah.
So we do exist, the guys who have not really played a video game. I don't think Pong's a video game. So.
Yeah.
You like chess?
Chess? Yes.
Chess is cool. I like playing drafts. Checkers. I think it's cool.
If someone tells me that they don't know how to play chess, my respect for them goes a bit down lower. know.
It's
I
fun.
think that is something you should learn.
Mm.
It is a fun
Absolutely.
game. Even if you don't
Absolutely.
play it for ages, it's a pretty simple game.
No, chess is a fun game.
Yeah.
So one
You
of
could
those.
probably hypnotize someone to be good at chess, could you?
Oh, you could. It's similar to golf. It's going through the process of what they need to do to be good. So
So do you get a lot of athletes?
say that again.
I said, do you get a lot of athletes?
Yeah. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. I had a girl who was a fencer a few years ago, and she actually made the United States Olympic team.
Wow.
And at first, her father called me to set up the appointment. So, because he wanted to pay for them. And I said, but I have to talk to your daughter. He didn't understand this entire concept. They saw me do a show for graduation ceremony for one of their other daughters. So then he found out I did therapy. He said, I found out you're very good at it. And I said, depends. So I said, I need to talk to her first. So please have her call me. So that conversation took place. And I said, then just give her the credit card to bring with her. And we can do all that at the time, but you don't have to prepay. So she would describe, because there was one girl fencer, she would fence every year. She could never beat in these tournaments. So it was really a simple process. She didn't realize it, of telling me what it felt like when she went up against her. And then had she ever in her mind, but the hypnosis started, I said, if you're ever in your mind, have you ever beat her? Oh yeah. I said, great, close your eyes. And with your eyes now closed, I went into a process to relax her. Tell me about the time you beat her. And then we just took all of that information and turned that into a session. And I made notes as to what the strategic reasons were she was able to defeat this lady. And once that was all down, I had my notes for any time I needed to work with her or remind her. So I remember right before she was going into the match, she called me on my cell phone. And this wasn't part of the deal, but she says, I'm nervous. And I said, close your eyes. And then I went through 4 or 5 of the items. I said, open your eyes. How do you feel? Fantastic. Enjoy your match. And then a couple hours later, the dad calls and says she won. I owe you more money. I said, no, there's no agreement that you owe me more money. I said, but you can book me for a big show because I said, you're a wealthy man. We could have a big show. That pays me more money. I'll come do a big show. I'd rather do that. So let's do that. And we did that. So to celebrate her success.
You're like a real life Mr. Miyagi.
And like I told my friend, once in a while you get lucky. So
there you go.
we help lots of athletes. The other thing we help people with is taking tests. So a lot of people have test anxiety. And so, or they have problems with their memory because they're not accessing their memory, because when they're anxious, their memory gets blocked. So those 2 items are related, and we can help people with that all the time. I had a friend of mine up north of me in the northern part of the state where he does Gestalt therapy, and he was working with someone who needed to pass the accounting test for the CPA exam out in the United States. And it's a difficult test. She failed it every single time, and 7 times in a row. So he called me and says, will you talk to her? I said, yeah, just have her call me, and I guarantee you she'll pass the exam as long as she's studying. He said, I can tell you she's studying. I know for a fact. I said, that's what you say. Well, let me decide. So she came in and she was studying. And we found out what happened is when she sits down in that seat to take the exam, she freezes up. So that process, the ritual of taking the exam, caused her to freeze up. So we had to deprogram the ritual and install a different ritual for success for her. That's all we did. And she went in there, and next time she took the test, passed. Was shocked because it was only 1 visit. And she had seen the other guy for 12, 13 visits. So she was a little upset at that. And I said, no, it took all those visits to find me. That's all. So that's why we only had 1 session. No guarantee it would have been the other way around. You don't know. We don't know that. So.
Yeah, being an athlete, you can get in your own head sometimes. I
Yeah.
do archery, and you're deciding whether or not you're going to hit a target or if the distance is right, blah, blah, blah.
Right.
And there's this thing they call it nurture, and I have it fairly rough. It's called target panic. So, you get to a target and then everything hits. You could be walking up to it saying, I'm going to fucking nail this thing. You could
Right.
be loading the arrow in saying the same thing. But then the second you're into perspective of the arrow pointing at the target, if you don't use a sight or blah, 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 that's when it sets in.
Right.
Your arms might go weak. You can't lift
Right.
it up properly, blah, blah, blah. Now, I have my own coping mechanisms. I just do breath work, and that works for me. But there's some people, I think they'd love a bit of hypnotism off you.
Well, it's just self-programming. You just have to reprogram, be aware of what they're telling themselves. They're programming themselves to fail. So rethink the language you're using and make it successful language.
Yeah.
It's all you have to do. It's not that hard. It's just we make it harder than it is.
I suppose we do that with a lot of things. We set up barriers in front of ourselves, and rather than think of solutions, it's problems.
Yeah.
Well, I can't do this because of blind, blah, blah, blah.
And remember, if you have a friend of yours or you say it to yourself, I can't do something, it's either because can't means you don't want to or you don't know how to. It's one or the other.
Yeah.
So you want to say, if you're talking to yourself, you say, is it because I don't want to do it or I don't know how to do it? So if you don't want to do it, maybe it's just something you should not ever do. It shouldn't be part of your life, so set it aside. But if it's something that's really important to you, then you've got to find out how do you get the desire back into your life to really want to do that. And if it's a matter of you don't know how to, well, then you just got to get someone to teach you how to do it. That's all. Because if someone can teach you how to do it, then you know how to do it. And then to be good at it, what do you have to do? You have to practice.
Yep.
If you don't practice, nothing's going to happen.
And do you ever get people coming in, like, obviously not athletes or people trying to not smoke? Do you ever get people in terms of weight loss? Because I know it gets pretty rough for some people. Got some stories you wouldn't mind telling?
Oh, sure. I have a great story for you. So I had a lady come in to see me who really wanted to lose weight. She wanted to lose about 30 pounds. And I have a different weight loss protocol than a lot of hypnotists in that when you make an appointment for weight loss, you have to bring in a few things. One is you have to bring in a recent blood test. Now, I'm not a medical doctor, but I want to see all the blood information, especially I want a thyroid test to see sort of the thyroid problem. I want to know whether someone's a diabetic. I want to know if they have high blood pressure. There's a lot of things I want to know because they're going to need some medical help if that's the case. And there could be medical reasons they can't lose weight. For example, you have a thyroid issue, it's not being treated no matter what I do. If the thyroid's not operating properly, you will not lose any weight.
Yeah.
That's the
Thyroid's
first
pretty
thing.
important for people who don't know.
Yeah.
It
Second thing is bring in your program of how you're going to improve your exercise. How are you going to exercise on a daily basis? What are you going to do every single day? And then the third thing is, how are you going to eat? I don't like to call it a diet. It's how are you going to fuel the machine? Because that's all chemistry. So most people, when they come to the first session, they don't bring all this. So right there, by not bringing in the 3 items, we know one thing. They're going to fail. They're not serious. So that session, I don't charge, and I can lecture them because I'm their friend, and their only friend who's going to tell them the truth, which is, you're never going to lose that fat ass because you can't even bring these 3 things into me. So the confrontation begins. So they'll get very emotional. And one lady I said that to, she got very upset at me. She says, well, you helped my friend and she lost all this weight. She came to you about 7 times and lost all this weight. And I said, she brought me all this information at the beginning. You didn't. I said, so what are you not telling me? I said, there's something here you're hiding from me that you don't want me to know. And you want me to perform the same miracle on you that I performed on your friend. I can't do that because you're not participating. You're not in the game. You're not playing the full game. So there's no charge. When you decide you want to disclose what you're not telling me, you can make an appointment and come back, but we're done. And she's crying. Normally they will spill, but she didn't want to spill. So she left. I didn't hear from her for 6 months. I got a card in the mail, and somewhere it's in a box, but I can find the card. And she said, Dr. Dave, I should have told you when I was in your office that I have a medical issue with my thyroid. And I wasn't on my thyroid medicine because I didn't want to take it. I went to see my doctor. He put me back on the medicine. And in 3 months, I lost the 30 pounds I wanted to lose. And for your time, I've enclosed a check to thank you for helping me. And so I called her on the phone and I said, congratulations, that's what you didn't tell me when you were here. So if you had told me that when you were here, you could have just gone and made the appointment. You would have lost the weight. You still wouldn't have to pay me. So I said, I don't want your check. So I want to either mail it back to you, I want you to donate it to somebody, or I want to just be able to shred it right here in the office. You don't have to worry about it. But what I want instead is permission to put your card up. I have a little wall when I put things up like this. So I can share it with people of what happened with you and how you lost your weight. Because your story is important to help the next person. And then she asked, how did my friend lose all the weight? And I said, I can't tell you that because it's a private session. She can tell you, but I can tell you guys what we did with her because it's similar about weight loss. Is some people gain weight because emotional events have taken place in their life. So if we get through the first 3 steps, I have them chart a little thing with their weight over the years. And they'll usually are spikes, especially with women. And what happens there is traumatic events have taken place. A breakup took place. Somebody died in the family. They might have been molested or abused. Some could have been raped. I mean, these are all things that take place. I don't need to know what happened when I see the spikes because I know some trauma took place in their life. So I save that for when they come in the next time, and I'll just ask them, what happened? What was going on in your life? So then we use what's called regression therapy, where we put them in hypnosis and we take them back to when these events took place to heal those emotional traumas. And when those emotional traumas are healed, guess what happens? The need to numb themselves or medicate themselves with food disappears. And that's how that lady lost all the weight, because she healed. She had 3 or 4 events that took place in her life. And as we healed them all of a sudden, her reason to eat to numb her pain was gone. She didn't need the food anymore. Those are true success stories where you're really helping a human being because they've been encumbered with this guilt and shame of their life. And once that guilt and shame is released, they're a brand new person.
Yeah, I would have thought straight away, okay, he's in America, so, standard American diet. It's not the best in all fairness.
No.
Yeah. No, I was watching something last night and it was about nutrition and the way one guy handles it. And he was very, very fascinating because he challenged some stuff about veganism. He said, if people say they have initial benefits from certain diets, it makes sense. It's not limited to veganism. If you go from a standard American diet to whole, just only plants, you're going to feel great for a while. Over time, blah, 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 it's bad. And I would have always thought diet, what are you eating? But never, the emotional side of it. Mm. And obviously you've had a lot of success with that.
Yeah, because there's reasons people eat the food, because you'll ask them what goes on all day. And there's people that will say, I come home and I pick up a bag of potato chips. I put on the TV and I just eat the entire bag. And it's mindless eating. They don't even realize they're eating the whole bag. And before they know it, it's gone. They've eaten that before they've even had dinner. So there right there is an extra 1,000 calories. Plus, they probably have, instead of water, they have soda with it. And that compounds it. And there's no exercise. So they've gotten up in the morning. They haven't done any exercise. So nothing to burn the calories off. Oh, yeah. And then you can explain to them, in the old days when I was younger, not today because the guys are pumped up on steroids, but you take the old bodybuilders before steroids because they weren't as big as now, but they would work out 3 hours in the morning and 3 hours at night. That's 6 hours of exercise. So they could literally eat anything because they're burning off calories. Just like somebody who's a lumberjack or works in a coal mine, they can eat more food because they're burning more calories. Or someone who's running 10 miles a day. Well, most people today don't get that kind of exercise. We barely even walk to the office. And today it's the home office, so you walk 300 feet. So
Yeah. And
that's
people
it.
put on a fair bit of weight during COVID. I myself included. Christmas dinner murdered me. Just sitting here like rubbing the round belly,
Yeah.
like Buddha.
Especially
Yeah.
people should park in the closest parking space at the gym. Like,
Right. So they don't have to walk.
yeah,
There you go.
Makes no sense, right?
No.
So you have to think back, especially if you watch a lot of old videos that are in the early ages of the 1910s or 1800s. You don't see as many heavy people because the diet was different and people had to exercise. They had to ride their horse or walk everywhere. There was really no other way to go. So you had to get some movement. So when someone wants to really get in shape or reduce weight, they've got to decide, I've got to move. You've got to move every day. How are you going to do that? There's a lot of ways to do it. It's got to be a way you're going to want to do it every day. You have to want to do it every day. Now, hypnosis can help anchor it, but you've got to enjoy doing it. If you hate doing it, you're going to stop. So we all know it. And then the second thing is there's got to be a time of day you're going to do it and a length of time. Now, maybe you can't walk 3 miles because you're in really bad shape, but that's your goal. So you've got to at least walk every day and allocate the time it would take to go the 3 miles. So know that it may take me an hour to walk 3 miles. So I have an hour I'm going to exercise. So when I walk the 1 mile and I'm back, what am I going to do for the next 40 minutes? Something. Because besides aerobic activity, you've got to lift weights. You've got to do something to build muscle. So you don't need weightlifting. You can do push-ups, sit-ups, squats. You don't need any of that. All these old things you can do. You can lift up pots and pans in the kitchen that are heavy. So there are things you can do.
People who use like buckets of cement and
Yeah.
sandbags. That's
Yeah.
crazy.
Yeah, they're old school lifters who do all that stuff. So there's always a way to get something done. So again, going back to this is COVID lockdown time everywhere, we can use the time we have to do something to improve ourselves or to help somebody else. So what might that be? That would be a good challenge. We could call that the COVID-19 challenge. How are you going to improve your life and how are you going to improve the life of one other person?
I like that. It's really
Yeah, I
nice.
like that too.
But sadly, I'm pretty sure the COVID-19 challenge was created about maybe a couple of months ago. Just people started licking the fucking toilets.
Yeah,
Well, we won't do that. We'll do our own.
And I don't want to be associated with that, so
call it something else.
we'll rebrand it. It's okay.
Rebrand it. You come up with something better than that. So because that challenge
Yeah.
I don't know anything about because remember I'm a Pong player, so I missed it. So.
And Dave, I see there's a couple of weights behind you. You're taking care of yourself at the moment, are you?
Yeah. No, I think since we last met, I've probably lost 30 pounds. So
No, you're looking well. Yeah. You're looking well. Fair play to you.
Yeah. So.
You lost a beard. In all fairness, you had a big beard the last time we seen you.
Yeah. Well, it's still here. It's just smaller. So.
There you go.
It is trimmed. That's all.
Yeah. Hypnotizing kids to think you're Santa Claus or something. Yeah. So like, have you like been able to work at all during this?
No.
Like I know for Americans, there's not really as much stimulus as there is for Europeans. Like here we get like weekly things of what €230 or €330.
I think.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've received no government money since March 19th. I've received no income. So
how have you been getting by, if you don't mind me asking? Like,
savings.
have you done anything online?
Savings?
No, I have savings. So
okay, you're a smart guy.
Yeah, I've saved some money, so I can get by. I can make it.
Yeah.
So
Well, fair play to you, sir. It's just
yeah.
When you said that you hadn't even been doing the online stuff. I was kind of in shock. Like,
I have lots of people who think I'm doing online things. I'm doing none because I'm just not a proponent of it. So, I mean, I could help the stage hypnotists improve their show by talking to them like we're doing now.
Yeah.
But that's because they've done a show, and if they send me a video of one of their performances, we could break it down, and then I could teach them some things there. But I'm not charging anyone to do that. There was a number of stage hypnotists I have taught, and all of those guys know that all they have to do is call me on the phone for advice, and I'll give it to them for free. So I'm not going to charge them that. I've already charged them before. So I could build a business like that. I don't feel like doing that because, you teach them all this stuff, and then the problem is, how long will it be before they're going to be able to perform again? Because the problem is, for most of them, is they don't do as many shows as I do, for example. So they don't practice. So even though we can go through film by film, frame by frame of a recent show of theirs from maybe a year ago, unless they practice every day, they're not going to get better. And they could practice. They could stand in front of a sofa that's empty and imagine everyone's there. They could deliver their opening statement. They can go through what we call our suggestibility tests, or some games to determine who your subject's going to be. And then you can go through the process of how you would put them into hypnosis. And then you could give the skits out, imagine the skits going on. That's how I learned a long time ago. I would practice to an empty sofa all the time before you could do a show. So, but the problem is, I can just tell you the number of students I've had, none of them practice. In fact, one person, he'll remain nameless, so I don't want to embarrass him. He flew me out to a casino, an Indian casino in the state of Minnesota, for a New Year's Eve party to help him be prepared for the show. Now, he didn't need me there. And New Year's Eve, I never take an event because I'm with Humphrey Bogart. It's amateur night. So people who crazy are out drinking, I'm going to stay home. So we're in this casino, and he's a mess the morning of the show. And he was a mess the night before when we met the casino people running the sound equipment and where the venue was going to be. And I had to calm him down and talk to the other people and then explain to him how best to set up his show. Now, all of this stuff we had talked about many times before, and he's done shows in this environment before. He just was very concerned about what might happen if he failed. But he didn't fail. We took him at breakfast before the event was at 9 o'clock in the morning. At 7 a.m. at breakfast, we went through the fundamentals of what's involved in doing a show, all the steps. And the craziest part was one of the steps is, after everyone's hypnotized, make sure you do not keep anybody who's not a good subject. Now, when he went through the process of hypnotizing everybody, they were all good subjects. But in his mind, he had, Dr. Dave says, get rid of somebody. I got to get rid of somebody. So the funniest part was, he went over and tapped somebody, says, wide awake. And the guy goes, yeah. He goes, you can go back to your seat in the audience. He says, why? I was hypnotized. I want to be in the show. Nope, you're not a good subject.
Right.
That's exactly how he said it. And the guy just got up and left. Now, I wrote a little note down because I had to tell him that this happened. So, and it became the joke of the day for him because he could not believe he did that. And then he explained to me why. He says, I had them all ingrained. I had to go step by step. I said, you followed them beautifully, but that guy could have stayed. So he said, but you said to get rid of him. I said, someone who wouldn't be good in the show. You didn't hear that part. So, but he had a great show. So, because he just did the fundamentals.
Yeah.
Yeah. Why do you think that is, that some people are better, people can be more, hypnotized easier than others?
Because they want to be. We go back to the formula, which is the imagination is there. They're imagining themselves being the star of the show.
Yeah.
They believe in the hypnotist and the hypnotism. They're convinced they're going to get hypnotized when they come up on stage, and they expect to be the star of the show. That's one of the reasons they come up there, is they want to be the focal point. It's their chance to get on stage and entertain somebody. They're not someone who can sing to a crowd. They're not a comedian. But in this environment, it gives them the reason, the excuse to come up on stage and be a star. And that's why they're good.
Yeah,
That's my opinion. So
that's even a thing we take into account in atmospherics. You know, why do they want to be there? Like, what's the purpose that they came in? Are they, like, you wouldn't sell cookies in a shoe store, you know?
Right.
Sounds like a pretty bad shoe store in my opinion, but go on.
it would be a pretty good one in all fairness. I wouldn't mind some cookies.
Yeah.
You know, get the new Skechers and get a bunch of cookies with it. But
Write that down. Very good.
Yeah, I suppose that makes sense. Like, if it's gonna happen, you're gonna be looking for it. Like, so I suppose when you're looking at a crowd thinking, all right, we're gonna get someone on, are you kind of looking for people who are like staring directly at you, like wide-eyed and ready to go?
Not even that. What I'll do is I'll simply ask who wants to be hypnotized.
Much easier.
And they're either going to raise their hand, they're going to jump up, they're going to start running toward the stage. And those are the people we're going to take. Now, when they get up there, we have to go through a process, because some of the people are coming up there because they don't want to really be hypnotized. They want to prove that I can't hypnotize them. Or they're going to pretend they're hypnotized. So once they get seated in the chairs, we'll talk to them, which is say, if you came up here to prove that I can't hypnotize you, you've made a big mistake. And
So you're breaking them down.
oh, you can see them. They'll start looking around. I go, why is it? Because I can hypnotize anybody, and I'll make you look really, really bad. So you better get up and leave now. And those people they'll leave, because they realize they better not. They don't want to fool around, so they'll leave. Then I'll say there'll be some of you up here that are going to pretend you're going to be hypnotized. I'm going to know you're pretending, and we're going to ask you to leave when I see that. So if you want to pretend, just tell me now, because you're taking away a seat of somebody who'd be a really good performer. And you'd rather see them up here than yourself. So, and they'll get up and leave. Now, occasionally there'll be a few of them left, but as you go through the process of putting them into hypnosis, you'll be able to weed them out and then get rid of them. And then if you have any open seats left, you can bring some other people up who are true believers and very quickly hypnotize them to be part of the group. And then you're on your way.
Makes sense. Yeah.
It sounds like fun.
But that comes from
shows.
experience.
I'd love to go to one of your shows. Like, honestly, they sound so fun. I like the stories you were telling me of. Didn't you get like a basketball player to like fall in love with something that was on an object, or
some guy with that chair?
Fell in love with the doll. He thought it was Scarlett Johansson.
Yeah. And then there's
Nick Young of the Golden State Warriors. Yeah.
Brilliant.
Yeah. There's lots of fun. They're always fun, and they're fun because usually they're people you know who are in the audience.
Mm-hmm.
They're friends of yours, and that's what makes it even more fun, because you know that person. There is no way they would do that, right? There's just no way. So
yeah.
Well, anyway, Dave, we've gotten pretty deep into this. It's a pleasure to have you as always.
Thank you very much.
I hope people learned a bit today. Yes. And Dave, if people want to check you out, where can they find you?
They just go to my website, which is drdavehill.com, drdavehill.com. Everything's there. At the bottom of the page are all the social media places they can go visit, and there is no video game. So.
Tisk. We'll get one in there. We'll get Pong in there someday. All right. So, any final message for people?
I just want everyone to be patient. Everything's going to turn around in the entire planet. We'll be traveling soon, and we'll be having fun again, like we've had in the old days. So it'll all turn around. Life gets better. Life gets better.
Yep. Well, you're hoping for it. So thanks to everyone who listened, and hope everyone has a great day. Take care. Top of the morning, lads and ladies. Support for the Awfully Irish podcast is now brought to you by Manscaped, who is the best in men's below-the-waist grooming.
Manscaped offers precision-engineered tools for your family jewels, and you're no longer lead the look of the Irish with the ladies. Manscaped just launched in Ireland. We've gone years without using the right tools for the job. You can now be one of the first men in Ireland to experience their life-changing products.
Your balls will thank you.
Get 20% off and free shipping with the code IrishPod at manscaped.com.
That's 20% off with free shipping at manscaped.com and use code IrishPod.